Good evening, you're watching us live from the Gambia radio and television services. This is the NewsFile. Coming up in the next 1 hour, His Excellency President Adama Barrow sets up a commission of inquiry into Aki deaths as child mortalities from acute kidney injury climb to 70. We'll get all the latest on the growing emergency linked to contaminated India-made syrups from health officials later on NewsFile. Attaining Sustainable Development Goal 2, the Minister of Agriculture urges concerted action to end hunger amid growing food insecurity throughout reality being experienced by millions of senior citizens around the world. For all, facing the challenges of aging, from royalness to infirmity, the elderly confront multiple problems, including a growing distance from young people driven by gas in use of digital
this
technologies.
is NewsFile with me, by Ibrahim Cham and Winifred Nicol. Little training and no logistics. A lack of ammunition hits Russian battalions as freshly mobilized civilians arrive on the front lines to fight in Ukraine. Plus, anti-government protests in Iran sparked by the death of 22-year-old Gina Masha Amini in police custody.
This is what outrage looks like in Iran.
No sign of abating.
People who feel they've
nothing. That's the top of the NewsFile coming ahead in the next 1 hour with me, by Ibrahim Cham and Winifred Nicol. Many thanks for joining us.
It's great to have you here. We begin this special bulletin with the presidency, which is swiftly responding to the health emergency and outbreak of acute kidney outbreak in the Gambia. On Friday, the Gambian leaders summoned an emergency cabinet meeting on Aki deaths, saying the recent acute kidney injury outbreak in the country is challenging time for the government, families, and the people, and called on all to close ranks and work together to come out of the crisis better prepared. President Barrow made the call during an emergency cabinet meeting he summoned on Thursday, October 13th, for an update on the 66+ Aki deaths associated with contaminated Indian-made syrups imported into the Gambia in June this year. According to updates, as of 13th October 2022, the number of Aki deaths related cases has risen to 70, and all may be linked to the use of the contaminated drugs. The president was emphatic that his government is determined to unearth the details of the case, as the children died in unusual circumstances. Accordingly, a directive was issued to open criminal investigations. The ongoing police investigation have established the importer, licensee, and quantity of drugs imported in June 2022. Atlantic Pharmaceuticals Company Limited brought into the country a consignment of 50,000 units of medicinal syrups, of which health authorities recalled over 41,000.
However, over 8,000 units are still unaccounted for. The probe established that the Medicine Control Agency, MCA, was established by the Medicines and Related Products Act 2014. At the time it started product registration in 2017, there were thousands of unregistered products in the country. This was due to a lack of testing facilities in the Gambia and the exorbitant cost involved in outsourcing the testing. However, Cabinet was informed that the World Bank has agreed to establish a medicines and drug testing facility in the Gambia. Furthermore, there is an ongoing international medical investigation in collaboration with the World Health Organization, WHO, and the Center for Disease Control, CDC, of the United States of America and Africa, looking into the medical causes of Aki deaths among children in the Gambia and related medical matters. Having received an in-depth briefing on Aki deaths cases, Cabinet concluded by setting up a broad-based commission of inquiry, whose terms of reference and composition will be gazetted shortly.
Now, let's now get into Aki outbreak with clinical pharmacologist Nuha Jaite. Good evening, Mr. Jaite, and a warm welcome to the NewsFile.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Of course, it's not Nuha Jaite, it's Nuha Fofana, field epidemiologist here.
Apologies,
Thank you.
Mr. Fofana. Now, many thanks for joining us. Give us an update on the implementation of the paracetamol and cough syrup recall. Are you closing in on the 8,000 units still missing?
Obviously, last few days ago, we actually concluded the recall exercise in Western 1 region, Western 2 region, and of course URR, because we realized that those are the 3 hardest hit regions as far as these Aki cases are concerned. So those are the 3 regions we started at. So at the end of the exercise, we actually recalled more than 13,000 paracetamol syrups and almost 3,000 bottles of promethazine, and of course more than 6,000 bottles of various types of cough syrups. And we are planning on extending this particular exercise to the remaining 4 health regions, which will likely commence next week.
Well, how about the 8,000 units still missing? How far with that?
Yes. So due to certain constraints here and there, we could not do the exercise throughout the whole country at once. That is why we decided to begin, of course, at the 3 hardest hit areas in the country. And like I said earlier, hopefully this week, teams or Red Cross volunteers will of course be moving from house to house to make sure they recalled, these remaining syrups that are still with families across the country. So gradually, it's a work in progress. Everything cannot be done maybe within a single day or so. So we of course know the consequences of families still having this, but we are doing everything within our capability to make sure the remaining bottles or syrups that are still with households or families are all recalled soonest.
Well, interesting. We know that there's quite a number of children in critical condition after taking the syrup. What symptoms are they showing, and are you able to retrace contacts that link them to cough syrup and that are actually given to them?
Yeah. So actually, like I said earlier, AKI, acute kidney injury, the most predominant signs or symptoms. First is oliguria, which is reduction in the quantity of urine output within children. Of course, later on, it can lead to anuria, which is total shutdown of the kidney, meaning the kidney will no longer be able to produce urine. But from our observations, we realized that usually before children actually developed these 2 cardinal signs, first they may have scenarios of vomiting, diarrhea, and of course sometimes coughs. So those are other symptoms which these children usually manifest.
Okay, now tell us the current range of the health emergency and potential for more deaths.
Actually, like I said earlier, this is work in progress. We are not expecting to arrest, whatever is happening within maybe a day or 2. So all the different stakeholders, as far as this particular outbreak is concerned, are doing everything. We are working 24 hours around the clock to make sure we don't have any new case of AKI across the country, and our case management team, which are located at Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital, of course with support from other international medical doctors, have also arrived in the country, and they are working with these people to make sure this outbreak that we are currently experiencing becomes a thing of the past in the shortest possible time. Yeah.
Now, Mr. Fofana, you mentioned earlier that you gave us an update on the 8,000 missing units, but are parents complying with regards to being able to recall the 8,000 units that is missing?
Yeah, so personally, I was at the Upper River region during the drug recall exercise, and from my interaction with various household members or with the Red Cross volunteers, actually there was no case of refusals at that end. So so far so good. Families are cooperating, caregivers are cooperating. We have little or no hitches as far as cooperation of households and caregivers is concerned.
Okay, now what advice will you give to parents who actually generally administer the paracetamol and cough syrups to sick children? Are there other alternative medicines that we can use for ailing children suffering from other conditions?
So actually in the Gambia, it's a common practice. People normally bypass health facilities and just go direct to pharmacies to seek for medical attention. So we are actually discouraging people to stop that trend. Your first point of call whenever you are sick should be the health facility. We have nurses or doctors across the length and breadth of the country who will be able to amicably advise whatever kind of patient we have. So our advice will be anyone who falls sick, especially to the caregivers, if you realize or detect any of the symptoms or signs and symptoms which we highlighted, please rush the child to the nearest health facility because ongoing trainings are ongoing to better the case management of AKI across the country. So at the moment, doctors are more equipped, knowledge-wise and resources-wise, to make sure cases of AKI are being properly managed.
Well, thank you very much for your time here on NewsFile.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
That was health expert and clinical pharmacologist Nuha Fofana giving us all the latest update on the Aki outbreak linked to the contaminated India-made cough syrup.
Now, as the world prepares to commemorate World Food Day tomorrow, Sunday, October 16th, populations across the globe are facing soaring hunger and food prices, exacerbated by conflict and disease. This comes amid a raft of crises, starving millions of vulnerable people around the world, alongside increased malnutrition as food systems face the ravages of climate change, affecting local and small-scale agriculture, which are seen as long-term and sustainable solutions against food insecurity.
Well, global food production is currently affected by three major factors significantly or specifically: the climate emergency, impact of COVID-19, and new conflicts such as Russia invasion of Ukraine, now which has contributed to a major upheaval in global food and energy markets, with soaring food and fuel prices putting millions at risk of hunger across the world. Our Hawanjai takes a close look at the crisis and he now reports.
This year's commemoration of World Food Day is themed on leaving no one behind, towards better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life. The Minister of Agriculture and the Director of the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization issued statements urging actions to end hunger and attain food security, noting that COVID-19 immensely impacted efforts to achieve food sustainability goals. Dr. Demba Sabali, the Minister for Agriculture, emphasized the importance of celebrating World Food Day for those involved in agricultural practices.
The day highlights the importance of food security and the need to end hunger around the world. In addition to raising awareness about hunger, World Food Day also seeks to promote sustainable agricultural practices and highlight the importance of ensuring access to nutritious food. It is an important day to reflect on the progresses made in combating hunger and malnutrition and the challenges that remain. It is also a time when we acknowledge the hard work of our farmers and other key stakeholders in the agriculture and food sectors.
The world faces a profound food security challenge intensified by conflicts, economic crisis, and a raging climate emergency. Experts say agriculture is among the most cost-effective humanitarian interventions being expanded to end hunger. The Director General of the Food and Agriculture Organization (FAO), Ku Dong-yu, outlined the impact of rising food prices around the world, hampering the fight against hunger.
Today, 3.1 billion people around the world still cannot afford a healthy diet. Hunger continues to rise and it's affected 828 million people in 2021, an increase of about 46 million people since 2020 and 150 million since 2019. Farming and malnutrition are leading to loss of lives and put at risk the health future for our children.
Dr. Sabali added that urgent investments are needed in the agricultural sector in the fight for food sustainability.
Today, more than ever, we need to look inwards within our country to achieve better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life, in a drive to achieve self-sufficiency and reliance. Our agri-food system holds great potential for a more equitable and prosperous future, as they are interlinked to many areas of life and the economy. More investment, both public and private, is needed to ensure no one is left behind, especially in times of disaster and situations of widespread hunger worldwide. It is vital to ensure support for the people's livelihood that's effective, coordinated, sustainable, and timely enough to take account of critical planting seasons and livestock production.
Current food insecurity levels make it critical to transform agri-food systems and build more efficiency in agricultural practices, honoring this year's theme to leave no one behind.
Our agri-food systems hold great potential for a more equitable and prosperous future, as we are interlinked to the many areas of our lives and economy, from agriculture to the natural resources, to energy, to health, and many more. Agriculture is among the most cost-effective humanitarian interventions. To honor our pledge to leave no one behind, it is critical that we transform our agri-food system to be more efficient, more inclusive, more resilient, and more sustainable.
The World Food Day was established in 1945 by the FAO. This year's celebration finds the world in a major pandemic, conflicts, climate change, and rising food prices, greatly impacting global food security. The Minister for Agriculture said, everyone needs to act in solidarity to ensure no one is left behind in the advocacy for food sustainability. Hawanjai, GRS News.
Women everywhere are shouldering the worst of the cost of living crisis facing the world. Acute food insecurity and economic recession is vastly putting women's livelihoods, health and well-being at risk, whilst jeopardizing their progress on sustainable development goals. However, against these odds, rural women especially continue to propel efforts towards food security, with contributions significantly supporting access to food and viable nutrition for families across the Gambia.
Smallholder women farmers are particularly sustaining food and vegetable markets essential for daily meals in homes and eateries. Highlighting this endeavor is the special focus on this year's Rural Women's Day, celebrated annually on October 15th to put the spotlight on women's needs. Earlier, the Gambia's Minister of Gender and Children's Welfare, Fatou Kinte, hailed this year's theme, which celebrates women's roles in food production, cultivation, good food, and all. Let's take a listen.
October 15 globally is the day that has been set aside to recognize the important role and contributions of rural women in improving agricultural and rural development, food security, and rural poverty eradication. It is therefore important that I commence this goodwill message by recognizing the enormous role that rural women and girls have continuously contributed towards national development. As the country currently mourns the death of 69 children whom we lost to acute kidney infection, on behalf of the government of Gambia and the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare, I extend my deep sympathy to the parents and families of the 69 children and assure them that we are with them in this very difficult and trying moment. The theme for the celebration this year is, and I quote, rural women cultivating good food for all, unquote. This accentuates the important role that they continue to play in upholding food and agricultural systems throughout the world. Globally, the post-COVID-19 recovery process, along with climate change and environmental predicaments, has faced us with a global food crisis. It is therefore imperative that to eradicate extreme poverty, local agricultural sources of livelihoods for women, especially rural women, is adopted. Fellow Gambians, fellow women, food insecurity deepens gender inequalities and increases women's health and nutritional impediments, as nearly 30% of women aged 15 to 49 years were affected by anemia in 2019. In the Gambia, like the rest of the world, we continue to witness a rise in food insecurity and climate-related disasters. As a result, in combating this global crisis, it is vital that we join government's efforts to stabilize food insecurity in the country. In addressing this year's theme, Rural Women Cultivating Good Food for All, I wish to assure you of the government of the Gambia's commitment to increase sustainable alternative livelihoods, to well-functional vegetable gardens, to facilitate consumer markets for garden produce, to women cooperatives, to increase income level of the farming families, and most importantly, establish a buy local produce for national development campaign.
Now, this is the Gambia's robotics team flying the country's flag high at the first global challenge in Geneva. The Gambia's robotics team is currently in Switzerland, taking part in the first global competition, bringing together national robotics teams around the world for a major face-off. Team Gambia won its first and third matches at the global event.
The first global challenge is an Olympic-style robotics competition where participating countries build and program a robot to compete. The competition, embracing science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, is a deliberate effort to give young robotics teams around the world an opportunity to showcase their STEM skills.
Now, the Food Safety and Quality Authority, in collaboration with the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, is advancing a strategic course to strengthen food safety in the Gambia. Implementing the Codex Trust Fund project, FSQA brought together stakeholders to develop an action plan for the National Codex Committee and subcommittees responsible for food safety regulation. Pamela Baji has the details.
The Food Safety and Quality Authority and partners convene a round table to develop action plans to guide the Codex and its subsidiary committee, strengthening efforts to ensure the foods consumed in the Gambia meet safety standards.
We are here today to develop an action plan, which is one way of really customizing, domesticating all those instruments, all those platforms that are created globally to protect the health of our nations. We are also concerned about the quality, which is important, the type of food that we eat.
We are striving to become the coordinator in 2024. We are starting the preparation now, and I want to also that featured in the action plan, so that in 2024 Gambia assumes the CC Africa coordination, which I have started discussions, and we will intensify it in 2023. We will also have perhaps some side meetings with other members of Africa when we go to the Codex Alimentarius Commission in Rome, which is next month.
Among the tasks assigned to the committee is the enhancing of capacity for producers engaged in the country's food sector.
As a committee, therefore, we need to come up with activities and action plans that will help us raise awareness, that will help us ensuring that every stakeholder has its capacity built in its area to work toward ensuring that we have a safer food that is consumed, imported, distributed, or retailed in our beloved Gambia.
I've seen a few representing some businesses, but also the actual business people that are doing hands-on, facing the realities of the day-to-day of business as involved in food safety activities. I think it's pertinent that we also try and enlarge a little bit and invite them and let them make some significant input in what we are doing. It's good we have WHO amongst us, but I think we need to have also some important observers. Observers that tend to have an independent position on our discussions, on our decisions, that they have no stake in what we are doing, and I think that will give credit to whatever we are trying to do.
Contaminated foods have been a major challenge, especially for developing countries, with experts and infrastructure concerns affecting key players involved in food production.
WHO, FAO, together with the countries are very concerned that the food that we eat should be safe, because we are living in a world where we have 1 in 10 people, which is about 600 million people who eat or who fall ill because of eating contaminated food. This is worldwide every year. And unfortunately, over 400,000 people, of those people who eat those contaminated foods, die.
The Food Safety and Quality Authority has been advancing efforts to ensure the availability of safe and quality food for Gambians, and with support from partners, gainful measures are being registered.
We have become so much important internationally, and everyone is looking up to us as a country to actually be role modeled when it comes to food safety work in Africa, and of course codex structures in Africa. I think we are the best implementing country when it comes to the Codex Trust Fund, thanks to Baidu Rijalo.
The World Health Organization estimates that over 71% of global deaths are caused by non-communicable diseases. The risk factor of which they say is a result of unhealthy diet. This convergence is expected to come up with effective plans to curb food safety concerns in the country. Farmer Abaji, GRTS News.
Now, the needs and challenges of senior citizens is on the spotlight as the National Human Rights Commission partners with Chasan Charitable Medical Foundation, the UN, and the Gambia Association of Resident Doctors to commemorate the International Day of Older Persons, marked every October 1st. Saturday's event saw elderly citizens benefiting from a major health screening to detect hypertension and other health issues. Hawan Jai was there.
A long and healthy lifespan ultimately leads to aging as people grow towards elderly senility. It's a fact of our lives and a reality being experienced by millions of senior citizens around the world, facing the challenges of aging. From loneliness to infirmity, the elderly confront multiple problems, including a growing distance from young people driven by gaps in use of digital technologies. The International Day for Older Persons aims to address this with a special occasion, celebrating senior citizens on October 1st to promote their well-being and happiness. Following a statement released on October 1st by the National Human Rights Commission to mark the Day for Older Persons, the National Human Rights Commission joined partners to stage a diabetic and hypertension health screening camp for older persons. This year's theme calls for resilience and recognition of contributions by elderly women who made invaluable contribution to the world's development, alongside actions to tackle the challenges they face. Yvonne Masara-Kufa, who represented the United Nations Resident Coordinator, said, "The elderly face numerous challenges which cannot be addressed without such conversations."
The issues and the challenges that they face, we know that they face challenges including stigma and discrimination, in some cases abuse, some cases neglect. We also know that in many cases they do not have access to adequate health care, and so today's activity, which includes health screening and also interviews with them to make sure that we obtain enough information so we are able to address their issues with the relevant information.
The Vice Chairperson of the NHRC, Jennifer Jam, said Their mandate is to protect the rights of all, including older persons in society.
In the Gambia, we have a constitution that protects the rights of individuals. Our Women's Act has a whole section protecting the rights of the elderly, but then there are shortfalls. On the 1st of October, what the National Human Rights Commission did was to issue a press statement. And in that press statement, we brought out the shortfalls and made recommendations to government as to the way forward to make sure that the rights of older persons, especially women, are protected.
Haruna S. Jallo, the president of Chosan Medical Foundation, underscored the importance of the day's celebration and the impact of health screening for senior citizens.
The purpose is to at least do some health screening looking at diabetics, because we know most of the time these are common things, and hypertension. So give maybe few hypertensive medication in case they are, whoever arrives here has a high BP, and then next to be referred to the nearest facility, and then a follow-up also will be done by the guards members.
On 14 December 1990, the United Nations General Assembly designated October 1st as the International Day of Older Persons to raise awareness on the needs of senior citizens, shining light on opportunities and challenges of population aging to promote the development of a society for all ages. This year's theme especially focuses on women as people who bear the burden of upholding social structures. Hawanjai, GRTS News.
The worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community recently received the key to the city of Allen, Texas, during the inaugural reception ceremony of the Baitul Ikram Mosque in Dallas, which hosts a growing Ahmadiyya Muslim community. Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad underscored Islam's quest to establish sustainable peace in society. Yoro Jallo has more on that.
The world head of Ahmadiyya Muslim community and fifth caliph, His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, delivered a keynote address during a special reception commemorating the opening of the Baitul Ikram Mosque in Allen City, Texas. His Holiness, who officially inaugurated the mosque a day earlier, underscored Islam's message of peace and compassion at the occasion attended by nearly 140 guests, including politicians, faith leaders, and local residents. Various dignitaries also delivered solidarity remarks at the reception, followed by the presentation of the keys to the Allen City, Texas, to His Holiness. Expanding a major U.S. store, unveiling new mosque, and global partnership strengthening interfaith understanding and tolerance, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad spoke of Islam's focus on establishing peace within society and urged all leaders and influential figures to play their respective roles in promoting global peace. For GRTS News, this is Yoro Jallo reporting.
The advocacy group Peace and Stability Gambia signed a memorandum of understanding with APS Islamic Microfinance Limited on Saturday, launching a collaborative effort to support women in business. The MOU signing at the APS head office in Bigelow ushers in a $10 million loan for use by PSG to support women with mini loans to undertake startup ventures to earn sustainable income. Majan Barrow has the details.
Peace and Stability of the Gambia is a non-governmental organization aimed at promoting peace, recognition and development in the Gambia. The partnership group is a joint effort of local and international organizations that share a common vision of consolidation of peace and stability in the country. The organization, which was established and registered in October 2019, according to its member, has registered over 10,000 women across the country. For the organizers of the program, the signing of MOU with APS Islamic Microfinance Company Limited is a remarkable achievement for PSG. Fatmata Dabo Gomez is the president of Peace and Stability, the Gambia organization.
PSG has registered over 10,000 women across the country, from the Greater Banjul area all the way to the upper region, river region, who were supported with many loans to start up their businesses for self-sustainability and independent. The mini loan project is monitored and coordinated by regional coordinators across the 7 regions of the Gambia respectively. The organization has an executive committee which oversees all the activities of the organization and reports to the board members.
APS Islamic Microfinance Company Limited, which began operation in 2022, is engaged in rendering support to vulnerable people and communities in collaboration with implementing partners. Against this background, the microfinance institution has provided $10 million in loan scheme to members of Peace and Stability. The first phase of the pilot scheme will show a disbursement of $1 million in the Carnegie Municipality and West Coast region within a period of 12 months. According to officials, PSG will be responsible for identifying the groups, whilst APS Islamic Microfinance will provide technical assistance. Abdubai is the head of retail at APS Islamic Microfinance Company Limited.
We are very much happy and very much proud to sign this MOU today. We also want to build the financial literacy and entrepreneurship capacity of the members of Peace and Stability so that we can equip them with the relevant skills so that they can take advantage of the economic opportunities and business opportunities that lies in their various markets.
The signing ceremony between Peace and Stability, the Gambia, and APS Islamic Microfinance is described by many as a massive development, during which a culture of transparency and accountability will be fully exercised to promote the sustainability of the project. Majan Baro for GRTS News.
Now, 2 new judges were recently sworn in for the ECOWAS Court of Justice by the chairman of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the Community, President Umaru Sissoco Embalo of Guinea-Bissau, at a ceremony in Bissau. Justices Sengu Mohamed Kuruma from Sierra Leone and Claudio Monteiro Gonglaves from Cape Verde will replace Justices Kegura Bangura and January Travales Silva Moriara Costa from Sierra Leone and Cape Verde, respectively, who just completed their tenure at the court. The new judges will join the president of the court, Justice Edward Amaako Asante from Ghana, the Vice President, Justice Veribi Ouattara from Cote d'Ivoire, and Justice Dope Otoki from Nigeria, whose terms were renewed by the heads of state and government of the community. Following their swearing in, the president of the court, Justice Asante, welcomed them to the team and expressed hope that they will contribute to strengthening the court's reach.
Jurisprudence during their 4-year tenure. Justice Asante, who was among dignitaries at the ceremony in Bissau, added the appointments of the judges to show commitment by leaders of the ECOWAS and look forward to their services of colleagues as resumption of duties so that they contribute their quota to reducing the court's bulging case docket. The ECOWAS Community Court of Justice was created pursuant to the provisions of Articles 6 and 15 of the 1993 revised treaty as the principal legal organ of the community dealing with cases of human rights violations. The court relies on national courts of member states to deliver justice on human rights.
Well, live from Banjul, this is NewsFile. A reminder of our top stories this hour. His Excellency President Adama Barrow has set up a commission of inquiry to investigate acute deaths as child mortalities from acute kidney injury climb to 70. Attaining Sustainable Development Goal 2, the Minister of Agriculture calls for urgent and concerted action to end hunger amid growing food insecurity fueled by conflict and disease.
And cultivating good food for all, International Rural Women's Day is shining light on the essential role of women in food production and sustainable rural development. Away from home, little training and no logistics. A lack of ammunition is affecting Russia's battalions as freshly mobilized civilians arrived on the front lines to fight in Ukraine. Plus, anti-government protests in Iran, sparked by the death of 22-year-old Gina Masha Amini, entered a 5th week with no sign of abating. Well, that's all and more coming up in this news after this break. Do stay.
Wondering how to cash in using AfriMoney? Here are a few steps. Go to the nearest Afri agent. Tell them how much you want to deposit. Give the agent your number and the cash. You will receive an SMS notification from 777 confirming the deposit. To check and confirm your balance, dial *777# select option 7 my account, select option 1 check balance. Enter your PIN to receive your balance. With AfriMoney, Sajahle Jehna.
Assalamu alaikum. Fojeka, ce 22 octobre, Inch'Allah, Wally Ballago Seck ak Waram Daan gars yi gala bi nga xamante ni chaque année mu yëgal àdduna des personnalités, des hommes d'État, des hommes de culture. Wally Ballago Seck vous donne rendez-vous ce 22 octobre, Inch'Allah, ca Fojeka Bala ak Waram Daan ñëw leen Mr Amadou Diagne anniversaire bi foofu lañ ko yóbbu Fojeka, Inshallah.
Welcome back, and in sports, excitement is back in Serekunda East as the annual Summer Football Championship continues in full swing. The games are attracting large turnouts as passionate supporters storm the East Park to cheer their teams. In round 3 of the competition, Milan Football Club and New Germany played a goalless draw in a keenly contested affair. Famara Baji was there and he now tells us more. For that report by Famara Baji will come in our 10 p.m. newscast. Well, we will now go with another short break. The news continues in just a moment.
Welcome back, and now we take a look at other major news making headlines around the globe. Starting in Ukraine, where just a few weeks after Russian President Putin announced a partial mobilization, the first soldiers are arriving on the front lines. But while the government is able to call up hundreds of thousands of civilians to fight in Ukraine, it doesn't appear able to meet even their most basic needs.
Rusty weapons and squalid conditions. These are just some of the images that have been circulating on Russian social media and Telegram chats showing the things that mobilized Russian men are having to deal with.
A tampon. Do you know what it is for? You stick it in a bullet wound and it expands and stops the bleeding.
These pictures, also from Telegram, allegedly show residents bringing supplies to a military base in Novosibirsk. Moscow's mobilization efforts are not going to plan. Soldiers are missing sleeping bags, food, and medical equipment. We found groups on Russian social media where relatives of Russian soldiers are sharing pictures of the equipment they are sending to the front. We reached out to Russian soldiers but couldn't get any to appear on camera for an interview. When asked why they are going to war, one of them replied,
I'm not looking into the causes of this war. If I was mobilized, it means that my motherland needs me. I am a simple soldier. The question why and what for is not my responsibility.
Russian lawyer Max Ayonichev says social conditioning like this dates back to Soviet times and is part of the problem.
The majority of Russian people are not ready to go to war. But there's a willingness to rely on the government's decisions because there is a belief that authorities know better. The people don't think critically, thus they don't understand when the government is using them as cannon fodder.
It's been 3 weeks since Russian President Putin announced a partial mobilization. Since then, hundreds of thousands more Russian families have been drawn into the war.
Now, protests in Iran enter a fifth week after 22-year-old Gina Mahsa Amini died in police custody. She had been detained by the so-called morality police for allegedly wearing her headscarf too loosely. Her death has triggered protests all over the country.
This is what outrage looks like in Iran. People who feel they've nothing left to lose, daring imprisonment or worse. Many disagree strongly with the government's rules on dress for women, and that someone had to die for breaking them.
In my opinion, they should remove the hijab altogether. Anyone who likes it can wear it, and anyone who doesn't need to.
Iran is a religious state, and the official interpretation of Shia Islam relies on a fundamentalist view of women's and men's roles. Women are required to dress modestly, and that includes covering their hair at all times in public. This is a core value of Iranian law since the revolution in 1979. Child custody and divorce settlements favor men, who can also prohibit their wives from working in certain professions. Women are not allowed to leave the country without their husband's permission. Women receive far less inheritance when a parent dies than do their brothers, and they face discrimination in inheriting their husband's estates as well. The Iranian government does not seem poised to change discriminatory laws. Rather, the senior mullahs have blamed the West for the protest movement. But that hasn't stopped the widespread chants, "Woman, life, freedom," that have been ringing out.
Well, this is NewsFile live from Banjul. A quick look at our top stories before we take leave of you. His Excellency President Adama Barrow has set up a commission of inquiry to investigate Aki deaths as child mortalities from acute kidney injury climbed to 70. Attaining Sustainable Development Goal 2, the Minister of Agriculture has urged concerted urgent action to end hunger amid growing food insecurity fueled by conflict and disease. And cultivating good food for all, International Rural Women's Day is shining light on the essential role of women in food production and sustainable rural development.
While little training and no logistic, a lack of ammunition is affecting Russian battalions as freshly mobilized civilians arrived on the front lines to fight in Ukraine. Plus, anti-government protests in Iran sparked by the death of 22-year-old Gina Mahsa Amini in police custody have entered a fifth week with no sign of abating. Well, that's it for NewsFile. Thanks for the pleasure of your company. Do join by Ibrahim Cham for more updates at 2200 hours. Until then, good evening.